Buona giornata! What's up, mortals? It's Shara Zor-El here with a new video for you. Welcome to Part 4, Season 1 of What If Female Shinso Was an Assassin. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. So, we begin. It was now 2100 hours. Shinso had just left the assassin's den and had set off for the warehouse. She began free-running up and down various buildings in Mustafu. Parkour! Using her eagle vision to enhance her view of the city at night, she could now time her jumps perfectly. I'm coming, Zio, and nothing will stop me. Shinso thought as she leapt across a vast chasm to another building overlooking her target. She blinked her eyes and the world went back to normal, leaving only several guards shining in bright red. I can feel it. Zio is here. I just know it. Inside the warehouse, Shinso was correct. Aizawa's arms were hung up with his equipment and his blades on the table, one of which was shattered beyond repair. It was then one of his captors struck him. The band was huge, their muscles peeking through their clothes.
So, this is the infamous Master Assassin.
The kidnapper backhanded Eraserhead.
Not so tough now without your gear.
Eraserhead's eyes went crimson and his hair shot up, sending his assailant to his knees, gripping his skull. Aizawa's quirk, Erasure, could cancel non-mutation quirks with a single gaze. Its secondary ability could instantly give the receiver a massive, crippling migraine.
Good! You bastard!
The man forced himself to his feet and slammed the Master Assassin with a powerful headbutt.
Asshole!
Aizawa's quirk deactivated as blood ran down his nose. The guy had broken it. He craned his neck to the left and then to the right, his gaze stopping at a skylight. He then narrowed his eyes.
Problem child. So you've returned.
Aizawa then returned his stare at the one guarding him.
Let's see what the Mentore has taught you.
Back outside and on the same rooftop of the building, Shinso was already making her way down. She was going to save her talent for the one she saw strike her Zio. Eagle Vision was a learned ability passed down from assassin to assassin. However, some just had a natural affinity for it. Shinso was the latter, as were her parents before her. The ability was a sort of pseudo-X-ray vision that used all of one's senses to give a clear picture of the world around them. It took years to master, but when one did, the target would not be able to escape it. The guard that hit her beloved Zio was shining a bright gold, while the guards around the warehouse were red. But on the other hand, her Zio was shining a royal purple with sparks of gold all around him. Why? Because he was just fabulous! Fat Gum had equipped her with some essentials, like throwing knives for instance, two of which Shinso currently held in her right hand. She marked her targets, and one throw later, the two Templars grabbed their jugulars, fell, and then slowly bled out. She then silently climbed up and over a chain fence in one go. Though she was in white, none of the Templar guards spotted her. Shinso drew her stiletto, sneaking up behind another Templar at the front entrance. In a single motion, she silently dispatched him without a hint of hesitation. That was when she was spotted. Several guards swarmed her. However, this was part of her plan. Just according to Keikaku. Translator's note, Keikaku means plan. Fat Gum had given her a single Datura powder bomb. She threw it down and then somehow leaped up to the front of the entrance overhang. The bomb let out a massive poison cloud. Shinso watched as the guards that swarmed her turned different colors as they choked on their own vomit. Their necks had all seized, cutting off oxygen. In short, she ensured their deaths were excruciatingly painful. Shinso was without mercy. With that bomb, she cleared the outside. Then, satisfied, she pulled out the glass cutter Fat Gum had also given her and made an entrance. She hopped in and quickly free-ran up the side of some crates and onto the rafters above. The Templar guarding Eraserhead was now mercilessly beating the Master Assassin. Nevertheless, Shinso was tempering her growing wrath as she saw him unload on her uncle.
Who is the one taking out my man?
The Bastardo struck Eraserhead with a resounding uppercut to his lower torso.
I don't answer to dead men,
Aizawa said through bloody teeth and spat down at his assailant's feet.
I'm going to have a heart-to-heart with my problem child.
Shinso was now making her way to her Zio. He was in a raised office in the middle of the warehouse held up by scaffolding. The office did not have a roof, so he could, in short, swoop in and end the bloody guard. However, Shinso was not stupid, as she took a moment to gather herself. I must quiet myself. Zio is in there, and he is alive. The ranked 2 disciple took a breath and closed her eyes. Remember what Mentore taught you. Quickly, Shinso pulled out another gift from Fat Gum, a crossbow. Without looking, she fired, sending a Templar off the rafters to the ground below with a thud and a splat. Shinso opened her eyes, and all her targets were marked, 10 in total, plus the bastardo watching her uncle. Raptor, take flight. Aizawa whispered to the confusion of his captor. Soar high with all your might. Shinso said on instinct as she gutted another Templar, then leaped higher into the ceiling. Ready your talons as you spot your prey. It was then Eraserhead spotted her. The Templar keeping the Maestro in chains, then slowly looked up, making sure they will not get away. With a leap of faith, Shinso unleashed her fury upon Zio's captor. Her talon shot out and pierced through his collarbone, then through his heart. The Templar fell like a mighty oak as Shinso used him to cushion her fall. She then immediately found the keys to free her Zio. She tossed them to him, which the Maestro caught and went to work on his shackles. Who is the Grandmaster, you brutal bastardo? The Templar just smiled and spat in Shinso's face. May the Father of Understanding bring misfortune upon you and your brotherhood. He cursed her and the brotherhood with his final breath, then passed away. Your words are for naught and fall upon deaf ears. You curse nothing more than dust in the wind, and your soul vanquished into the endless abyss. Requiescat in pace. Shinso closed the Templar's eyes as she soaked a white eagle feather in his blood. Eraserhead then touched her shoulder, causing her to look up at him. It had been 10 long years since she had seen her beloved Zio. However, a touching reunion would have to wait, as guards swarmed the office Aizawa was shackling. Maestro, we have to go! Shinso then slammed a heavy smoke pellet down, the cloud engulfing the room. Eraserhead held his breath as he gathered his equipment, then covered his mouth with his capture weapon. Shinso pulled up her undershirt as she quickly placed her Zio's arm over her shoulder. Then they crashed through a window, landing hard. Aizawa had already several broken ribs, which were now all exasperated further. Shinso shook off her pain as she heard the guards cough uncontrollably. That's not going to last long. She picked up Eraserhead and bolted for the door, tapping her earpiece. Den Master, these raptors need to fly. Brotherhood members are coming in hot. Fat Gum replied as Shinso made it to the entrance at the fence. Within moments, an armed helicopter made it to the warehouse as Shinso stumbled forward, Aizawa in tow. She made it to the helicopter and tossed her Zio in. She soon followed after. It was then a Templar burst out of the warehouse door and shot at them.
Ah! You son of a bitch!
A bullet grazed her arm as she fired back with the crossbow and nailed the attacker in the chest. Shinso was fine, though livid. She accomplished her mission and saved her uncle. Aizawa was cut off as a tearful Shinso snatched him up in a firm embrace. I'm fine now, my dear child. Rest now. I should be saying that to you, Zio, Shinso continued, with tear-filled eyes holding on to her beloved uncle. I don't know what I would have done if I'd lost you, Zio. Judging by your performance... Shinso cut her uncle off as she once again wrapped him in her arms, with him letting out a slight yelp of pain. Baka! I don't want to even... Eraserhead returned her embrace, cutting her off, then lightly broke it. You would have won the whole damn war for us. Eraserhead then brought his niece in close once again as she quietly laughed. I love you too, my dear niece. At his last words, Shinso was suddenly overwhelmed with happiness. Her Zio told her he loved her. For the first time in 14 years, he said those words she longed to hear. He loved her! However, her happiness was cut short as she suddenly broke free. Eraserhead looked at her like she had gone mad until she started checking him. Shinso? Shinso! Aizawa's niece was not listening.
Hitomi!
She suddenly stopped and looked directly into her Zio's eyes. At that moment, Hitomi was not that hearted assassin her Nino and Mentore had taught her to be. No. Right now, she was the little girl who would have burned down the world if it meant she would get her uncle back. I'm alive, dear child. The panic seemed to subside in Shinso's eyes. Beaten, bruised, and in an immense amount of pain. I am indeed alive, niece. Fat Gum had thought ahead when he sent the copter for them. Another man gently asked Shinso to release the maestro, so he could start first aid. Shinso released her Zio in the other assassin's care, with a heavy and stubborn breath. Si, maestro. Eraserhead was suddenly caught off guard and looked at her for a moment, then nodded his head. May I let my uncle know that you are well? Eraserhead stared at her blankly for a moment. He's been out all night, every night. Aizawa's mind rebooted, and he rapidly nodded his head. Thank you, Zio. He is quite handsome, if I do say so myself. Aizawa winced from both the stitch and Shinso's words. You didn't try to kill him, did you? And I love our new kitten! Shinso clapped her hands with glee, much to the rising ire of her uncle. He's so fluffy, Dio mio, I just want to eat Leonidas up!
Shinso!
Aizawa yelled, but not out of anger, but because the man that was tending to him had struck a very tender spot. Now, Dio mio. That's a secret between an uncle and a niece. Shinso gave him a Cheshire grin. You know it's very sacred. Kami help me, they've bonded! Eraserhead face-palmed, knowing that this would not go in his favor. However, he had to admit he was glad she accepted his husband. At this, Shinso could see a slight smirk hidden under her Zio's palm. She then moved her face underneath his palmed one. Suddenly, the maestro was now looking fully at his niece's face for what seemed to be the first time in years through the cracks of his hand. Bellissima. His voice was just above a whisper. Shinso heard it and gave him a quiet smile in return. When did you grow up? Was I asleep for that long? Shinso blushed at her Zio's words and looked away. I'll call Uncle Zio. Shinso then moved back to her seat and hit her earpiece. He picked up before it could even ring a second time. I found him. Hisashi gave Shinso a hushed breath, waiting for the other shoe to hit the floor. Eraserhead's hand then gently moved to pull the earpiece out of her ear. Trust me. Shinso looked at her Zio, but it was too late. Her uncle heard his voice. Shinso winced and covered her ears, dropping the device. Told ya. This was followed by some more yelling. I'll be home soon, babe. My heart! I ship it! All Shinso could do was laugh as Aizawa picked up the earpiece and hung up. They arrived soon afterward at Fat Gum's agency, the assassin's den. Though injured, Aizawa stepped out of the chopper on his own accord. Shinso was by his side the whole time. The other assassins assigned to pick them up stayed back. The den master then greeted them properly, then led them down to the den for a debrief. Glad you are alive, maestro. Fat Gum did not know fluent Italian, but the words he used most often were used concerning a member's rank and file. In this case, Aizawa was a master assassin and currently ran the Shizuoka prefecture, along with a few others surrounding it. I see our newest arrival's mission proved successful. I am glad you are safe, maestro. Indeed, Den Master. Eraserhead nodded, then spoke again. I have the information we need. He then revealed who the Order of the Templars Grand Master was. So that's the bastardo's name! Shinso's eyes flashed as she recalled the death of her parents. Una puttana named Enchi Todoroki! She's not off on her description. Aizawa turned to face the Den Master. The man may be Japan's #2 hero, but intel has revealed his, how do you say, breeding program. To this, Shinso was repulsed with horror as Fat Gum laid it out for them. But Aizawa had to admit, he was not fond of this goal of breeding the perfect quirk-balanced offspring. Should she be hearing all this, Maestro? Aizawa sent him to his knees as he activated his quirk. God damn, a simple yes would have sufficed! Aizawa then looked at his niece. Now is not the time to strike. Do you understand me? His voice was not that of her Zio, but that of the master assassin of the prefecture. Shinso only clenched her fists in response. This bastard had her parents killed. She then took in a breath. She knew haste meant waste. With a nod of her head, she acknowledged Aizawa's orders. She then thought back on her nonino, Ezio. His family. He must plan as carefully and quickly as possible. Aizawa spoke again. His family, what do we know? Aizawa was taken aback at her words, as was Fat Gum. Has he succeeded in creating his abomination? Yes. Todoroki Shoto, 14. Fat Gum and Aizawa were now fully invested in the little raptor's words. All he knows is that I got away. Shinso opened up with, naturally, this progenitor Desitana is in some sort of super elite private school. So the next best thing would be that he would want him to be a hero. Yue. Solemnly Aizawa said as Shinso met his eyes with her own. The Mentore has taught you well. Go on. The simplest of plans often turn out to be the most effective. Shinso's voice was cold, calculated. She was the spitting image of Ezio right now. I steal this bastardo spawn's heart, then stab it with my blade, drawing our target out. You'd sacrifice an innocent? Aizawa was about to question the words coming out of his niece's mouth. We work in the dark to serve the light. We are assassins. Shinso's voice was absolute in her resolve. Besides, I seriously doubt he would not come after me after I take his father's life. Miss Shinso! The Den Master caught the little raptor's attention. Do weigh your words carefully. Master Aizawa is right. He will be innocent. Please meditate on this. I agree with the Den Master. Shinso then turned towards her Zio as his voice shifted. Take some time. I beg of you, dear niece. Please. For me, if no one else. Shinso closed her eyes. They believed in her. However, taking an innocent was a morally troubling concept. To say that it had not been done before would be a lie. However, it was still frowned upon, even if it served the greater good. She knew this because what she proposed was exactly what Ezio did to achieve his vengeance. She found this out when she heard him cry out one night after he had passed out on his office couch. She was up late studying some techniques she found quite intriguing in her nonino's library. At his cry, she arrived before the guards did. Ezio saw her. His face was pale, and he seemed lost in his nightmare's memory. She then sat with him and held him, as he had done for her on so many nights before. He then told her how he got his vengeance and the name of the girl he killed. What hallowed the Mentore the most was that he actually fell in love with her, and she with him. Shinso and Aizawa soon returned home that night. The latter was dreading it, but could not wait to see his beloved husband. However, they did not even reach the concrete fence when they saw Aizawa Hisashi coming in hot. The worried, tear-filled man leaped into Aizawa Shota's arms, forgetting themselves for a moment. They engulfed each other in a heartfelt kiss. Meanwhile, Shinso was damn near drooling at the sight of them. This was her every yaoi fantasy manga and doujin come to life! Despite preferring her home country in nearly every aspect, she discovered she had a passion for BL or boys love manga. This came about when her training roommate had just returned from Japan. She was on a training mission or something of that nature. The two got along well, and when a dojin fell out of her bag, well, just look at the result of that encounter.
You're alive!
He's as she proclaimed as Aizawa finally put him down. The blonde hero then saw his new niece. At his gaze, he snapped out of her stupor. Figures. Come here, little girl. Shinso swooped in and was instantly embraced by the loud, flamboyant hero.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing him home.
Shinso did not utter a word. She simply nodded as her new uncle continued to cry in her arms. She then looked up at Hertzio. He was trying to hide it behind his long bangs, but she could clearly see his tears. She would do it again, repeatedly, over and over again, no matter what the cost, if it meant saving Hertzio. The next day at Endeavor Agency, the Flame Hero had just upheaved his desk, launching it to the ceiling. He cursed widely after receiving the email about not only the rescue of the master assassin Aizawa Shota, but also that no one got a look at who the hell rescued him.
Idiots! I have fucking idiots working for me!
He then blasted his desk, turning it to ash as he reviewed the death toll. 25 men guarding the outside perimeter, 2 of which were victims of throwing knives piercing the exterior and anterior jugular veins. The rest were victims of asphyxiation from Turkish datura powder.
This assassin was making a statement.
Endeavor pondered as he continued to read the toll. 12 more men, one was shot with the crossbow. However, his fall killed him. The freed master assassin, no surprise there, took out 9. One, though, was taken down with a single stab perfectly through the collarbone, which then eviscerated the heart.
Consider it delivered.
As for the one that got shot outside the warehouse, he made it back and was promptly executed for his utter failure to identify the assassin. It was now Monday, and the second week of middle school. Shinso may have been a trained assassin, but she was still a child, one that was going to start her last year of middle school. Opting for the closest one, he says she took the reins as a proud parent and enrolled his beautiful niece into Aldera Middle School. They were up at 400 hours so he could do her hair right. Normally, Shinso would have just put her long hair in a ponytail and be done with it, but her uncle had other plans. So instead, he washed, cleaned, and conditioned her hair in a salon sink he purchased a while back so he could maintain both his husband's and his hair properly. My princess will not be seen as some common miscreant! Shinso was taking it in stride as she tried to stifle a giggle. First impressions are important, my dear little raptor. When he was done, Shinso could not even recognize herself in the mirror before her. There she is, my beautiful niece. Was right. Her uncle made her go beyond plus ultra! Shinso turned back to him and gave him the biggest hug she could. Thank you, uncle. Shinso released him as she finished getting ready. He said she was quite pleased with himself as he strutted downstairs before his niece. He sat beside his dear old husband when Shinso finally came downstairs. This caused Hertzio to spit out his coffee in shock. Shinso? How do I look, Zio? Shinso meekly said as she averted her gaze downward. Magnifica. La mia bella nipote. Aizawa replied, causing Shinso to smile wide. He then looked at his husband. You are not going to stop, are you? He said she laughed while shaking his head. Nope! He had told Aizawa several times before they even got married that he wanted to adopt a kid or two. Now he had what he always wanted. No way in hell was he going to stop spoiling her. They soon left for Aldera after finishing up the paperwork, a short entrance test, which Shinso passed with perfect marks. The princess departed ways with her uncle. Moments later, her homeroom teacher introduced her to the class. Upon her entrance, everyone erupted in a cacophony of oohs and ahs. All except two. She recognized the blonde one, but he was too busy stroking his own ego to look at her. Had she had her blade, it would have been out. The other seemed familiar, but she could not place it. Buongiorno, everyone. The green-haired boy looked up at her words. Izu! Losing herself, she ran towards him, ignoring everyone around her. At first, the greenette panicked, but as she repeated her nickname for him again and again, his eyes widened. Izu, it's you! Shinso pulled him out of his seat with her bear hug. I thought I'd never see you again! She then felt a hand nearing her shoulder, letting go of Izuku, and in one swift motion, she grabbed her assailant's wrist and threw him into a wall. She then returned to her bear hug with Izuku. Toby, I cannot breathe. Shinso had buried her friend in her chest and was currently suffocating the greenette. He tapped desperately on her shoulder to release him. So she did. The next thing she did shocked the class, and the pissed off blonde boy splattered on the wall. She kissed him, shocking the green-haired boy at first. He then just let it go and returned her gesture. I've been waiting to do that for the longest time. Do you accept me? Shinso said, her eyes narrowing as Izuku smiled for the first time in a long time. I do, and the feel... Wait. Shinso touched his lips with her own. Just shut up and kiss me. So Izuku did what he was told. Alright, drop a comment about your favorite series or suggestions. Thanks to our team for another amazing video. If you're interested in joining our team and you are 16 years of age or older, feel free to check out the link in the description. Thank you all for watching till the end and have a fantastic